I'm Timothy Vigil, and this is Just Another Word podcast, the Word of the Day podcast for storytellers. R is for raconteur. The average man don't want to know much, and that little he do want to know, he wants to know it with a joke in it. The man who can tell a story so that it will be interesting, and so that it will stay with the person that hears it, is the man who has the advantage. Mark Twain, the autobiography of Mark Twain. Twain was perhaps the greatest raconteur who's ever lived. He understood that a story isn't just a sequence of events. It's not simply one thing and then another. It's never a straight line. See, because if you simply report the facts, you're a witness, you're a reporter. But if you weave those facts into an experience, that's when you become a storyteller. That's when you become a raconteur. The word raconteur comes from French, and it basically just means to tell or to recount. But in English, a raconteur isn't just a speaker. They're a skilled narrator who possesses a certain je ne sais quoi. They know how to hold a room. We can compare them to a reporter and garner a few key differences. A reporter focuses on what happened, but a raconteur focuses on the how. A reporter follows a straight line, making a linear narrative that captures exactly what happened. But a raconteur uses twists. They take you down the side path where something interesting and unexpected might lie. A reporter seeks to inform you, but a raconteur, they want to enchant you. They want to amuse you. But the hallmark of a true raconteur is the ability to find interest in the mundane. They don't need a dragon or a car chase to keep you listening. They might use those things, but what they really need is the right rhythm, the right pause, and most importantly, the correct, unanticipated word. A story told by a raconteur is almost never a straight line. It's a journey full of switchbacks. As Twain often demonstrated, the point of the story is rarely at the end. Sometimes the point is that ridiculous detour you took to get there. See, as storytellers, we get bogged down in plot, making sure that A leads to B so we can get to C. But a reader doesn't necessarily fall in love with plot. What they really care about, or most of them, is perspective. That's what people fall in love with. Think back on your favorite stories. And it's very rarely going to be, oh man, I love Star Wars because they blew up the Death Star. What draws us in is the connection of Luke and Obi-Wan, of Han Solo and Leia. It is the character whose eyes we are seeing the world that truly connects us. And a raconteur understands this. They know that the twist isn't always a massive plot reveal. Sometimes the twist is just a surprising adjective or a bizarre comparison that catches the listener off guard. It makes them see a common situation in a completely new light. The raconteur understands that what you are looking for is to see the world through different eyes. That might be the narrator's eyes or a character's eyes, but it is by twisting our expectations to give us a unique perspective that the raconteur takes us on a journey. So how do we make sure that we are not reporters, that we're raconteurs? I have 3 things, 2 of which I think are pretty obvious, and one is interesting and should make you think. The first thing is showing and not telling. You've likely heard this advice 1,000 times, and while I think it doesn't always fit every situation, we should be doing this more often than not. Look for the obvious words in your sentences and kill them. Don't say that your character is angry. That's just reporting. None of us want to be told how your character is feeling. The character should be vibrating with quiet, curdled fury. We now have something that is interesting, not just accurate. But also look for ways that you can use unexpected words here. Curdled is such an interesting word there because how often do we think of it? But it immediately gives us a sense of something that's bunched up, that's tight. We could say this same thing with different words, but look for the unexpected. A word that captures your imagination and might just capture somebody else's. The second way that we can be raconteurs is by paying attention to our pauses. In text, we create pauses with paragraph breaks, with sentence length, with commas. But understanding when to use each of these and how to use them, that's what a raconteur does. Do I need this person to have a short breath? Do I want them to breathe for a while? Figuring out where the breath goes before delivering the punchline or the pivot, that's important. Experiment with the way that your prose sounds if you break it up. Does this need to be tight? Does this need to be open-ended? The last way that we can take our writing from being reporting to raconteuring is by understanding the narrator. Now, if you're writing in first person, this is pretty easy. The narrator is the main character. They're telling a story about themselves. But in third person, it's different. Your narrator should have a voice in third person. It's likely your voice. And that voice should be laced with the confidence of a raconteur. Your narrator should notice things, should point things out to the reader, should describe things in ways that gives you information. Now, likely you're writing in a third person limited, and so that voice needs to be processed through the person whose head you're in. But when telling the story, give that voice. Make sure that you are in your story. The narrator is so important because they are the through line. You are a storyteller, and what we see comes from you. So give us you in your writing. If you're writing a bunch of sentences and none of them sound the way that you would speak, try writing it again. Write a scene where you take everything and you pretend you're just describing it to your best friend. Write it exactly like that and compare it to the scene you've already written. See how far apart those two things are and try and bring a little bit of the second into the first. It is important for our writing to seem professional and clean, which is different than the way you would describe it to your friend, but it's so important that we see you. Mark Twain is so powerful as a raconteur because we see him in everything he writes. His stories capture us because his voice is tied up in them. See, the world is full of people who tell stories, one thing after another. But you should be the person who tells it differently. A raconteur knows the truth is a fine thing, but a truth told with a twist or a well-placed joke is a thing that can live forever. Don't just recount events. Perform them. Look for the unanticipated word that makes the reader lean in. Don't stop until your reporting has turned into a tale. You have been listening to Just Another Word podcast with your host, Timothy Vigil. For more information, go to timothyvigil.com.